it's not just heritage. It's every public holiday, every ceremony, all the important visitors who came to Famagusta, like George Bernard Shaw and so on. It's a social history. It's a social history even of the Second World War. There's photographs in the Mugatcap archive of the port being bombed by Italian bombers. That's important, and the sooner that gets done, the better. Okay, then chapter 5 is about film in Famagusta. So I used that photograph. There's actually down near your house, Serdar, your family home, I mean, the cinema there. If you go up to the projection room, there's the spools of film still lying around, and you see that and you wonder what the film is, and then you wonder who was it for and who was it by, and again the imagination starts to wander. It's interesting that one of Hollywood's biggest blockbusters was filmed in Famagusta. That's Paul Newman. He stayed at the Constantia Hotel, the Palm Beach Hotel. Exodus is the film. Whether or not you agree with what Exodus, the film, and book say is a totally different matter, but it's one of the big films in the history of Hollywood. And it was filmed right here. You would think, I don't know, maybe normally in a cafe or a coffee shop or a restaurant there'd be a photograph up on the wall of Paul Newman having his coffee here or something. It just seems to have disappeared. There doesn't seem to be much memory that Hollywood was in Famagusta. Of course, it's all to do with the question of detaining Jews on their way to Palestine in 1946 and 1947. And Gulsaren, just outside Famagusta, was the big camp. So this is a photograph of the very last Jewish detainee being released by the British to go to Haifa. Other films, more recent films. There was a full documentary, feature-length documentary. I think it's about 1 hour and 15 minutes or something, very long for a documentary, that Dan Frodsham and Alan Langdale made. That's a lovely attempt to tell the story of Famagusta. And it was used in a lot of different occasions for the benefit of the city. For example, in that Paris conference back in 2008, the film was shown, and it was also at the Ledra Palace and so on, and at side streets in the Famagusta week. So there are films out there. There are also films with a tighter focus. This one, also made by Dan Frodsham, is about the first attempt to do art conservation in Famagusta on a painting called The 40 Martyrs of Sebast. So this film, it's on YouTube. Anyone can watch it anytime. There's no paywall, nothing like that. If you're interested in the art conservation that happened in 2012, in which the Budai Jani, then this film explains it. It's about 20 minutes long, and that's the work happening in 2012. Okay, getting close. I wrote a chapter because there's, in my mind, a lot of stories still to be told about Famagusta. We know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. And just walking around, I got up at 5 o'clock the morning before, to go walking around Famagusta before it got too hot, and had 2 or 3 hours walking around. And I just know that behind doors like these, there's more stories. It's a city where the tourists know to go here and know to go there, and increasingly there's boutique hotels which are very, very nice, and I've been noticing there's more places to go for a drink in the evenings, and it's a wonderful place. But there's still large parts of Famagusta that are completely silent. And I think that the hidden heritage of Famagusta is going to be something in the future to think about. What do people have in their back garden? I think there's going to be a lot there. There's also, we did some work, I was with Serdar a few years ago in these two side chapels. This one in particular, you have to get into that through a window. It's been blocked up forever. But there's paintings in there that are super important because they're original, they're 14th century, and if you keep in mind that the cathedral was the coronation place of the kings of Jerusalem, it's a Crusader coronation cathedral, and this is an original work of art, and all the other original works of art from within the cathedral are gone, then this makes this the last, possibly the last painting anywhere in Cyprus that's original in the Crusader context. It definitely deserves attention. Well, more than that, emergency stabilization. The fact that it's blocked, the fact that you have to crawl through a window means most people don't. So it's quite safe, you know.
Not anymore.
That's it, I shouldn't have said anything. And in there, of course, there's all sorts of graffiti, there's all sorts of things that we don't normally consider art. But it's all got a story. I mean, you look at this and you wonder, who were these people and why? Why would you do that? Why would you graffiti a wall in a burial chapel? In the sacristy of the cathedral, or of the mosque, the Lala Mustafa Pasha Mosque, I mean, look at that. Isn't it beautiful? But I need to know who that person is. Was he Cypriot, or Lusignan, or Genoese, or Venetian, or you can read it. You know when he died, and you know his name, but that's all you know. And so here we go again, another set of stories begin. And then there's other stuff that you just don't know. I mean, it's not a very good photograph, but just by pouring some water on the stones and wiping with a cloth, look what begins to appear. Another story. And then a lot of Famagusta's heritage literally is underground. So here we have heraldic devices, coats of arms basically, put together like a tapestry, but this is outside the city walls in the Saint Thecla is the name of the saint, the church under the ground.
Saint?
Thecla. I don't know much about her. And then there's other stuff that I assumed after 23 years of looking for things, I assumed were lost, and then they aren't lost at all. So these are old sketches by a French artist in 1862 of candlesticks that used to be in the cathedral, and only last year I found them. They weren't hidden. They're in the museum in Lefkosia, in the Lusignan House Museum. But I just didn't know that. So a lot of hidden things are in view. You just need to, I don't know, you need to know what you're looking for, but can you imagine the surprise to be able to see that in real life after thinking it was lost? Okay, almost done. As we move forward, we move into a different period of art history, we move into a different period of storytelling, and it is linked to the digital humanities entirely. So we did a whole series of things, this is a long time ago. Back in this was about 2013, I think, or 2014. Back in those days, to make a digital model like this, you had to get a tripod and a big box that turned around slowly like this, and you had to apply for special permission and so on. And it was very expensive, very expensive. to get images like this. But we did it with the support of the university in Singapore. Today you can make exactly the same image with something that size that you're just holding in your hand. And it's your telephone that processes the data. So you can walk into a building like this, holding this, and your phone, walk around for 15 minutes, and go home. And you get the same job done. So it's amazing that this stuff is there. The models became slightly more sophisticated. This is St. George of the Greeks. This is an interactive model, so it's not a video. With videos you can't do anything, you just have to watch them. But with an interactive model, you navigate. So you choose, do I want to go inside? Do I want to fly inside? Would I like to go up to look at a painting? If so, can I move really close to the painting? You know, zoom right in. That's the advantage of digital modeling, is that it gives you an ability to control your own, to navigate your own route. This was one we did of, let me see, can I do this? Oh no, maybe not. I don't think it's gonna play. Oh, it is. This was the little Armenian church. Again, we did this about 10 years ago, but the idea is that you should be able to fly around inside a heritage space using a headset. So here you walk, by touching this thing, you can see the Armenian church from the same angle, but 150 years before in an archive, or painted by somebody else. So you walk through time and space to get to the model. When you get inside, you don't know what you're looking at, so you tap a thing and like this, up comes an infograph to tell you what you're looking at. So this is St. Theodore. And you, oh yeah, I can pop up and scare you a bit at times. It's location sensitive, so if you walk into a certain part of the church, up I come, and whether you want it or not, tell you what you're looking at. You can change the time you're in. So if you want to go back to the 14th century, that's fine. If you want to go into the future, that's fine. And you can fly, another great thing. Because if you want to see something that's high on a wall, flying's a good thing. And when you're flying, you can go back in time. So you get something for everybody. And then, of course, we took these experiments into the classroom in Singapore. And that's nothing. Oh yeah, here it is. So, can I pause that? As a high school teacher, I was a high school teacher for years before I did a PhD. The first thing you're taught when you're becoming a high school teacher is never take your eyes off the kids. If you take your eyes off the kids, they'll escape. So you'd never ever put on a headset as a teacher because you're blind. You can get your students to put on headsets, but you don't put on a headset unless you can have a MASDER headset, and each of these dots is where a student is looking. So see in the corner, if I'm the teacher and I said, all right everybody, beside the door on the right hand side there's some pictures I want us to look at, and I put on my headset and I go. Then I can see, are the students looking in the right place? And in this case, they actually were. Bless them. Okay. Digital modeling also allows us to do things we can't do in real life. We were working in St. Anne's for a couple of years. And we were quite successful in taking whitewash off the walls. We couldn't take cement off the walls, but you can take whitewash off. And so you get some ideas of colours, a few little ideas. If you get old black and white photographs from the 1930s, and you get a digital scan of them, you can stitch the photograph into the digital model, which means you can see below the whitewash, you can see below the cement. And then if you have little samples of colour, you can start to colour the black and white digital photograph. You see what I mean? So as an art historian, you can begin to experiment with, you would never dream of doing that in real life, but it's only a digital model, who cares? And if you make a mistake, you can fix it. So that was an idea that we developed. And then that came with music. Because we were doing research into the sounds, the historic sounds of Famagusta. And so in St. Anne's, we found a piece of music written in the early 15th century in Italy, dedicated to St. Anne in Famagusta, and this is St. Anne's. So to get the music recorded at the University of Rochester in New York, and a sound file made, and then put into the model, means that art history isn't silent anymore. Churches weren't silent. Churches had lots of sound. So digital models allow us to put sound back, the correct sound back into history. And that's what I'm saying, just experimenting with digital colouring. We also did some experiments in, can you start to reconstruct things that have been destroyed? So if you get enough data and enough information, can you use software to look through art history, look through actual remains lying on the ground, and can you use the software to put it back together again accurately? And you can. Not perfectly, but you can. You can also take layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of information about the same thing. So this is St. George and the Dragon from the Carmelite Church. And this is a sketch Onlart did in 1890s. And then there's a photograph from I don't know when, and then there's another photograph and another one up to the present day. And if you put these pictures all on top of each other, you get the image becoming much, much clearer. You get a much better idea of what's there. There's also the whole business of sound. Historic sound, we never think about it. Famagusta would have been noisy. There's many records of many, many different languages being spoken here, of different quarters of the city, the Syrian quarter, the Jewish quarter, the Greek quarter. Each of these places would have looked different, but they would have sounded different too. There would have been different music. There would have been different everything in those parts of the city. So one of the things that in any medieval city that we need to think about is bells. Bells aren't just noisy things that tell you to go to church. Bells were like the Morse code in their day. Different types of ringing meant different things, and people understood. So bells could mean religion, but it could also mean an execution, for example. It could mean danger, the city's being attacked. There's hundreds and hundreds of different meanings for bells, and here we have the bells in the storeroom in Famagusta, but they're meaningless because we don't understand. We've lost the information about what these would have to do. So the question is, can we start to piece that together again? Oops. There it is. The bell towers, for example, in the cathedral are empty. And we actually know what happened to two of them. They were melted down for the defense of Famagusta by the Genoese against James the Bastard. There's a document in Italy that tells you that the bishop gave two of the bells to be melted down into cannons. So that's two of them explained. The other two, don't know, they disappeared. But this person who was here in 1571 and survived the siege of Famagusta but was later murdered, wrote that he had seen the bells, the two bells, and that written on the side of it was William. And if you go to the archives, there was a Bishop William of Famagusta in the 13th century. So again, another story's beginning here. Another set of questions are emerging. So this is a drone scan that we just finished last year. This isn't a video, this is a model, so you can go anywhere you want. But you can see the bells are, the bell towers, the belfries, are empty. But just as we fly around the cathedral, or as we fly around the city, wouldn't it be a nice idea to make the sound change below you as you fly? as you go from the Greek quarter to the Syrian quarter, we can make the sonic identity change. So that's that. Almost finished. If you're interested in that, I've just written an article about that, which is coming out next month, and it's open access, which means you can download it for free. So if the idea of soundscapes interests you, then you can find it online, and it's a PDF. So it's and so on we go. It's about people again. It's about stories, it's about memories, it's about history, and how all of these things come together or separate. And Mafia, I know your project's involved very much with that. And also the fact that there's plans underway for a museum in Famagusta, which I sincerely hope works. Famagusta is a city that needs a museum, because, as I hope this book is demonstrating, there's a lot of stories, and that's what museums are for. Museums are there to tell stories, hopefully accurately and impartially. And then from the smallest things, I bought these at auction on eBay. Again, I don't know where they were made, I don't know anything about them, but I think they're cute. Little teaspoons with pictures of Famagusta on it. From the smallest thing like that up to the biggest thing, this is my last slide. This is the next project we're doing. We're applying for money from Singapore to, well, we've done an exterior model of the Martinengo Bastion, but now we want to scan inside it so that we get an interior and exterior map, which is obviously three-dimensional instead of two-dimensional. But we also want it to be four-dimensional so that you can go in time, again, traveling to the period you want to be in. But then in addition to that, we want to add AI to it, because we found the Ottoman soldiers' eyewitness accounts of 1571, and we already knew about the Italian eyewitness accounts of 1571. We can get machine reading to read both sets of documents. And then if you're in a virtual space, by looking to one side, you can hear accounts of how Ottoman soldiers felt attacking this thing. But if you look to the other side, you can hear accounts of how Italian soldiers felt about defending this. And maybe for the first time, you can actually get a balanced history, you know, based on eyewitness accounts. So AI in this instance and large language models aren't things that we're running away from, we're running towards them. The sooner we embrace AI, the better in terms of scholarship. And when you build a digital model and then allow AI to scan the world for you for knowledge, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's better than a human being can do. Well, one human being. It's a project that it might fail, but it also might work. And that's it. That's the book.
Thanks very much. So thanks for this wonderful presentation, Michael.
Not at all, is it? Did I go over the time?
Yeah, it's
So
done, yeah. Even
luck.
5 minutes earlier,
Pure
I
luck.
can say. So it was really eye-opening and visionary as usual. So I would like to get questions, comments, if anyone has, one after another. So
you showed a tomb in the monastery, cathedral, belonging to big archbishop, I think, who came from Venezia and died here. Once I just read in the book, translated here from Warosha, Greek library. In the book, it said that that gentleman came from Venezia and went to the seaside, and of course it was winter, and he got cold, and died because of this, you know. That's why.
That's the tomb that's inside the mosque. That photograph was in the little chapel beside,
Uh-huh,
so
uh-huh.
it's a different one,
I see.
and it's a little bit. It's the same sort of period, but it's a different person.
And lots of the tunes, you know, lots of the people who died here, even Michele, you know, the friends of Leonardo da Vinci, also in 1559, I think, they were all buried in the monastery, I think.
They were.
Yeah.
Which means that the next time somebody lifts the carpets to do work, I think there's a program planned. The next time the carpets get lifted, we have to do a record of the floor.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there might be nothing there,
Yeah.
but there might be something.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to know, of course.
Yeah.
So if you see them lifting the carpets, take your phone and go.
Okay, I can do that. Thank you very much, sir.
Not at all.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yes?
You said that you can access photographs in media and download to access an archive. That's the MASDER archive, you said. But what if it's fake? Like, what if it's another or made by AI?
Yeah.
You can't really trust media nowadays.
No, you're definitely right. That's why I wouldn't recommend just downloading any image from anywhere, because then you don't know. But large national museums, you know, if you're downloading them through their website, you can be fairly sure that it's safe. It's just a digital scan of an object with the metadata, and once you hit download, you can be fairly sure that it's.
Or misinformation.
Yeah, if it's curated by a museum, I think it's probably okay. But if you just go to Google Images, then I think you'll get things that have been manipulated. Yeah.
Well, hi Michael, thank you for this nice talk. I noticed there was this tobacco factory advertisement with St. Nicholas on the right side.
Yeah.
But on top it was written Hagia Sophia.
Yeah.
What is it?
That's what it was called for years in both the French and the British press. The churches didn't really, the names didn't get settled until after Camille Onlard came here, and he kind of fixed the names that we still use today. Before that, Hagia Sophia was actually what it was called. I mean, not by the locals, by the first Europeans to come here and report back. And there's cases of that with travellers' accounts back through the 18th and 17th centuries as well. So it was quite common.
That's left kosher, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this one was the Little Hagia Sophia.
Oh, little one.
Yeah.
They was calling it either Little Hagia Sophia or Famagusta Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia or Famagusta, Hagia Sophia or
So it
Nicosia.
wasn't St.
So this was the
It was also
differentiation between them, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. I noticed in the Armenian church that the year 1878 and then 1974. May I ask how you are going to describe 1974 in your book?
Well, that's all in the previous book already on the Armenian Church. What I tended to do was, in that book and in this one, is to avoid politics. I'm from Northern Ireland. I've spent a lifetime avoiding politics, and I plan to continue to do that. I'm interested in stories, and I'm interested in two sides of stories. With the Armenian Church, the 1960s were interesting because a family lived in the Armenian Church, and there's photographs from 1974 actually of children playing at the door of the Armenian Church. So you know it was a living space up to a certain moment, and then after that moment you lose contact. I had hoped to identify the children in the photograph because they're probably still alive today, just older. and to ask them about their experience of living in the Armenian church, you know, because these are living spaces, but I couldn't find them.
Do we know the family living in the Armenian church?
I've got
Ermeni
photographs.
kilisesinde kimler de oturan biliyoruz değil mi?
Düşünelim.
Bir aileydi. Yani
But after 1963.
it's a family that we've heard of their name, so we can ask about that.
Well, I've
We
got
can learn.
photographs, so I can give it to you, and if you can say, is that you?
Uh-huh.
I said that it was after 1963 clashes, no, as far as I know. And because the people
Starting from
came
19...
here as the refugees, they had to